Another game that was supposed to be competitive, according to the Vegas line, it goes the way of the opponent against Florida State in this one. Pitt had dropped 4 straight. They come to Doe Campbell. They get healthy, 41-17. Big game. James Coleman's on the line from Fifth Quarter College Football. Other than this game, James, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good, man. I got back in town a few hours ago. Right before the game, went up to Atlanta to go for some business interest. And then I was like, I told him I got to get back. I said I got to be able to sit in front, watch the game, have host parties and different things like that. And kind of wish I would have stayed where I was at. Probably would have been a lot more fun. But it's part of the game. Everybody has to experience this downward trend, I guess. It's just not something that FSU fans are used to.
Not at all. But they're starting to get more used to it, going back here now 3 to 4 years, and it just seems to be spiraling down. So anyway, focus more on this game than the overall program condition. Let's start with the offense. Break it down in terms of what went right and a whole lot that went wrong.
Well, what goes right with the FSU offense is basically it's quarterback. Obviously, it's quarterback driven, which most programs are. But it's when Jordan Travis is in there, you're making all 11 defenders be honest because they have to account for his legs. Your offense is moving in a tremendous fashion, and you saw that in the first quarter with a lot of explosiveness. Jordan with his arm able to do some things, but really his legs were what was keeping Pittsburgh's defense honest. But eventually, their front seven, really the 4D linemen are just really, really good. And they just wore down on that offensive line, getting, I think, 5 sacks in the first half. And eventually getting to Jordan Travis, their adjustment was to take away his ability to get outside the pocket and force him to have to stay in there and climb and make reads. And once you do that with Jordan Travis, and really not just Travis, when they put in James Blackman, they put in Chuba Purdy, none of these quarterbacks can sit in the shotgun in a pocket and read and get rid of the ball in a fast manner. A lot of times they were able to get to the back of their drop, but the ball they didn't get rid of the ball. And that's the only way that you can really counteract a very fast and aggressive defense is you have to know where you're going with the ball by the time you get to the end of your drop. Mix in there that the running game was going well, but then they stopped. And I really think the problem with the running game, when it's going well, Webb is the running back. Corbin, he's okay. He should be your number one guy. And then Toafili is good, can give you something. But I think when you split the ball between that many running backs and none of them are really overall that dynamic, that much of a game changer like a Cam Akers like you've been used to the last few years, Cam Akers, with Dalvin Cook to Cam Akers, and even Devonta Freeman before Dalvin Cook. Now you got a bunch of cats or just guys, but they got to get a rhythm. Just like people talk about quarterbacks getting in a rhythm, running backs have to get in that rhythm too. And when you take a guy out and he's not able to get, the 15 to 20 carries consistently, then you get in a situation. Add that to the fact that the defense all of a sudden stopped working, stopped being as aggressive, or they weren't getting to the quarterback, and they eventually started getting beat. So now the defense is they're playing. The offense is playing on a longer field. They're punting the ball, giving the ball to Pittsburgh on a shorter field, and now the game starts to get out of balance, and the momentum gets taken away from you. It's like FSU has an inability to play more than 2 quarters of football. They played a quarter of dynamic football that gets you excited. But outside of that, and it's really been the theme for the entire season, when other teams make the adjustments from what FSU is doing offensively and defensively, you see everybody fold. It's a collective folding. The players aren't really, really good at accepting adversity and handling it, and the coaches are consistently being outcoached. And I know that's tough. That's a tough pill for people to swallow because in the social media era and the way that we all go about debating topics, it's less debate and more playing the dozens. And if people don't know what playing the dozens is, that's basically craps, snaps, going back and forth. I have to say the most over-the-top thing to you. And instead of you retorting what I said with facts, you have to say the most over-the-top thing back. And then once we get to a stalemate, it's you have to be, you're a hater or you're this, you're that. When the cold hard facts say this is that you don't make any adjustments. There's literally nothing there. Pittsburgh made adjustments. They, again, like I said, the offense, how they stopped the offense was they took away Jordan Travis's legs. And then what they did was not only did they make the adjustments in the passing game and attacked FSU in that manner, I can't think of his name, but they targeted one receiver, had 11 catches for like 128 yards. A good adjustment for that would be we might want to cover that guy. Or put your best guy on.
Don't get too complicated for the audience, James.
Right. But bigger than that is Pittsburgh averaged 2 yards a carry. They figured out how to run the ball, and they had a quarterback that had one leg. Their starting quarterback had a big-time ankle injury, and he was able to be mobile. So it's just there's a lot of things that people can point at, and it's easy. It's always the players. At the end of the day, like I think I've said on this show, every play on offense is designed to score. Every play on defense is designed to stop somebody from scoring. So, yeah, in its essence, it is the players. But the reality is this, is that they're not being put in really great situations and possibly not being coached up. And the tackling was just as bad as it's been coming out of a bye week. It's just funny when you see a lot of the thing. I made a big deal or a joke, not really a big deal, on social media about an article was written, and this is really where the problem comes in. It's the fluff pieces, what for me at least, that, say like a young player, number 44, Gant, said, we had fun this week. And I had to go. It reminded me of Remember the Titans when Denzel came in. The guy was like, fun? You think football is fun? And, going back and forth with that. And I just thought about it. And I gave this speech to a local school here, Reebok High School here in Jacksonville, Florida, for their homecoming. They suck too. So maybe they won that game. Maybe I should have came in again and gave the same speech. Is that in I played 4 years, 5. So in my 9 to 10 years of playing football, I can't remember the first time I had a practice that was just fun. Winning is fun. Practice ain't fun per se. It's a means to an end. It's maybe just like work. Not everybody really enjoys the day-to-day aspects of work. You enjoy the damn paycheck you get. And then you can go buy stuff, especially when your paycheck is good. You're 24 periods, 2.5 hours a day of practice in the heat. People yelling at you, sweating, grinding. There's a lot of better things, a lot more things that I can describe as fun for 2.5 hours as opposed to going out in the Florida heat or the Florida rain or whatever elements that there are. Unless I'm going out there and I'm doing this for a means to go and win games. Winning the game is fun. The practice was so hard that it made the game easy. That's the standard. That's what teams who are building these buzzwords, cultures, that's what they have. And I remember, like, if I got to go out here and practice for 2.5 hours and beat up on people, somebody's got to pay on Saturday. And that's what I'm not seeing. I'm like, people, again, I've said buy-in, fun, all these words are super foreign to me because why did you choose to play this game? Like, that this is a part of it, and it's just not translating. So there's something that's being lost, or maybe it is all the players. I know this, most winning programs are very alpha male centric. And I know that's probably in this culture misogynistic, whatever, but this is a game that's played by men. Like you're cheered to impose your will onto another human being. You can only play it one way. So you have to be a little bit, some got to be wrong with you a little bit. And the only way to kind of get those guys into that right mindset is by having somebody that you're kind of like, all right, that guy might be a little more crazy than I am, and I might want to do what he says. So I think that there's just a overall lack of respect for the coaching staff and the game. The coaching staff, the game, and the tradition that Florida State has built. And we can get on here weekly and we can talk about these things that should happen and all these other things, but the product speaks for itself, and the product stinks. And like when I see the people troll, they have every right to troll. Like I'm grateful that FSU fans want to hear about the losing and the losses. It definitely helps fuel the fifth quarter, and we have other schools too. But at the end of the day, you should be upset because you were sold a bill of goods that's just rancid. I think we talked about it briefly. It's not better. It's not better in any aspect. And if I were to, I was telling somebody, if I were to tell you that you were going to return a 1,000-yard receiver, 3 of the top interior defensive tackles in the nation, 2 defensive ends that, though had not lived up to their ability, have shown flashes that they're actually healthy, a secondary that literally everybody in the nation recruited, your key guys, and a returning quarterback at starter, you would not say that no matter what program it is, you would not say that program should be 2-5 at this point in the season with this schedule. You would probably say that no, they don't have to be a playoff contender, but you would say that they will be at least playing competent games, maybe a blowout loss to a Notre Dame, but all the other games were close, or they were winning the games that they should win, and they're not. When you have a better coach and a guy who's supposed to be trending you in the right direction, you shouldn't blow leads like this, because regardless of what I'm saying, FSU was winning 17-3 at one point in this game, and obviously, as the score has been so brilliantly displayed, that's not how it ended. So these guys don't handle adversity well from a coaching staff or a player's perspective.
So, James, as soon as you said that about practice being hard, nobody likes practice in football, it was taking me back to junior high and high school, because the one time during the entire season, maybe the coach would be pleased one day after a decent effort and would say, we're going to cut this practice short to an hour and a half. Everybody cheered. Everybody loved it. And nobody likes to practice football, especially the guys that don't get to touch the ball. You don't like to practice. It's not supposed to be fun. Exactly. So let me ask you this, James. You made the statement a couple of weeks ago, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you just said something about Jashaun Corbin not being the guy that should get the most carries. He got 6 tonight, which was right around LaDamian Webb, who I believe you've been impressed with in the past, right?
Yes, I like the way Webb attacks the hole. His frame is a little bit different, so he's able to get skinny and then expand again. He plays the position with the reckless abandon that you want. I mean, he takes care of the ball and everything, but he's fast, he's explosive, and when you're running the zone read with the Jordan Travis, he strikes more fear, because if you don't account for him, he can get a big game. Yeah, and Jordan Travis. But when you put Corbin in, we believe that we can. The defense believes that they can just kind of corral him, because his vision just isn't good. Webb's vision is really elite. I'll give.
Oh, we lost James there for a second. Hopefully he gets back. No, you're there.
Am I back?
I'm with
you.
Somebody
called me.
We got you.
His Webb's vision and Toafili's vision are really, really good. It's the Corbin's just more of a true SEC style, more downhill type runner, and and that's just what he is. You could probably scheme that a little bit better, and he does have flashes. I just like Webb, and if it were me in our coaching and running back group, even though I played for a guy who did running back by committee, even with the greats, even with Warwick Dunn, even with Sammy Smith, even with Greg Jones and those guys, they all split carries. I would probably just let Webb get a bulk of the carries and just and then mix in Corbin when things are a little bit different and defenses are a little tired.
So I think most people that know anything about football and they see a box score where the quarterback led the team in rushing, that's typically alarming, but I don't know that it necessarily has to be every game. What does that tell you? And obviously you watch the game. Is that something you'd like to see them get away from?
No. I mean, that's just kind of is what it is. He led because he scored an 75-yard touchdown.
Okay,
so
I see that.
A big portion of his yards were from one play.
He actually had negative yardage other than that.
Big plays. Play. Right. So that's kind of really where Travis got his yards. What's striking is, again, 12. You said Corbin had 6, Webb had 6. How many did Travis have? I guess, do they count the sacks?
Travis had 14.
They count those as rushes too?
Travis went 14 for 83.
Yeah,
but had the 88-yard run. So basically the rest of it was negative plays and sacks.
Yeah, some of those were the sacks. So 12 rushes from your running back group is just not good. And the game, though definitely they took advantage of it. But when you look at what the first half was, it wasn't. It shouldn't have been an indicator that you needed to do this. What's more scary too is the amount of times that we went for it on fourth down. Coaches and where we went for it on fourth down, middle of the field, like you're 40, yeah, you're 40 to the other team's 40. You know, typically, yeah, I can see that if your defense is dominant. FSU's defense isn't dominant. So what do you do, especially when they got some of the, not I don't want to say cheap scores, but some of the scores they got early were from a short field. So why would you, if you're a coach and you're an X's and O's guy, you're a culture, you're a vibe guy, why would you consistently put your worst aspect of your team in bad situations? All you're doing is asking them to do something that they can't. You're asking them to fend off people when they've shown you over and over again that's just not what they do. And there were some good plays, there were some big plays that FSU's defense did. They were, again, the first quarter FSU team was, man, they looked like they could have competed with anybody. The problem is after they gave that one haymaker punch and caught Pitt square on the chin, they woke up, shook things up, and then came back and punched FSU and bludgeoned FSU to death. That's the worst part. And when Travis really went down, he got hurt. I mean, he's been playing hurt all year, but I think it was to the point where he really just couldn't get in. And that's really when everything spiraled out of control. They put James Blackman in. He throws an interception on his first drive. And as I suggested on the show last week, Chubba Purdy, I know he's the savior, and FSU loves him. It was the bell cow of the class. And, you know, Dr. Norvell brought in two freshman quarterbacks, something that hadn't been done as of late. But he's just not any good. He shot puts the ball, and he saw ghosts too. And that's just it's just tough, man. It's really bad. It looks atrocious. Worse than that box score reads, probably.
Absolutely. So I guess I noticed that from the first time I ever saw him throw the ball, which I think was in the Sun Bowl last year against Arizona State. But then it just struck me watching the last couple drives of the first half against Louisville. I guess because I was watching so many other guys throw the ball, flipping around, watching as many games as possible. Then I hit Jordan Travis, and I'm watching a Florida State quarterback who, yes, is shot putting the football downfield. It's just noticeable.
It's incredible the lack of football awareness and football IQ. Again, I try to keep things really simple for people to understand, because I think a lot of times when people in the media, we discuss things, we discuss them from as complicated of an aspect as we can, and it can be complicated, but a lot of times it's just jerk moves. What is it? Josh Rosen. Unfortunately, he's not any good either in the NFL. But he called it, they said they called it the MFer rule. Is like, I look to where there's less MFers and I throw it to that place. So there's 11. The reason there's an odd amount of players on each side of the ball. So whether you have two high safeties, one high safety, you always attack with numbers. So you snap the ball, boom. If you see the safeties, or if you got three receivers on one side, you see five guys go there, that means the other side has to be open. And you can see a lot of this stuff in pre-snap reads. Now, if they're blitzing and let's say they're bringing 7, that's obviously more than you can block. So if they're bringing 7 and you can only have 11 players on, that means there's 4 DBs to cover however many people you have out there. You should know that you got to throw to where the hole is vacated. Somebody who did a really good job of that on Friday night was De'Aaron King. De'Aaron King threw to the receiver who's in the space where the DB vacated. They don't do a good job of reading that. They also don't do a good job of knowing where they're going at the end of their drops, which I also think hurts Jordan Travis because his arm isn't strong enough to be able to get out of that. If you know where you're going with the ball, by the time you get out of your 5-step drop, boom, or 3-step drop, it should be gone. Like, that's timing. When people talk about timing, that's what that is. If you climb the pocket at any given point, it should be somebody wide open deep. That's very simple football. I know it's probably an oversimplification, but reality is drop back, If you climb, chunk it. Somebody should be open. Our guys have consistently, not just here, but over the last 3 years, have not been able to make those reads. And when I see every quarterback looks the same, every quarterback makes the same idiotic interception throws, and Travis should have had 2 of them. Purdy had 1 pick six, and Blackman had 1. That's being coached. I'm not saying they're coaching them to throw interceptions, but if everybody in the seg makes similar mistakes and does the same thing, then that's a coaching thing. That's a philosophical problem that you have to eradicate unless you get a Jameis Winston, a Charlie Ward, or a Chris Winkie, once generational talents. And I got news: ain't none of them coming through that door anytime soon.
So let's finish off with the defense, because when you went through what this Florida State lineup looked like on both sides of the ball, most of it was defense in regards to this is what you can count on, 1,000-yard receiver and on down the line. We go to the defense, and you're looking at all the dudes that you talked about along the defensive front, the secondary having players. Amari Gaynor is the best of the bunch. There are guys in pockets that we're going to see play on Sundays. So why are they giving up 41 points? Well, I know there was a pick six, so the final score doesn't always indicate the level of play on the defense, but they've consistently been underperforming week after week after week after week.
So you got one really good player. I'm sorry, you got one really good player in Asante Samuels. And they've effectively, most teams are just like, you know what? We're going to acknowledge his greatness. We don't have to attack that. You got guys that you brought in Miko Dotson, Jerry Jones, who are transfers who have not really lived up to their billing at this point. Now you had Travis J, who hasn't really lived up to the hype that he was coming in, but he's still a redshirt freshman. But he was hurt; he didn't play. Hamza Nazarene has not played any this year, still recovering from the knee injury. I don't think he probably will play this season at this point. You've got I'm trying to think of the secondary. Keem Dent just hasn't performed to the level of what he was last year. And in the D line, it's just simple things like keeping leverage, not getting sealed, getting pushed. I mean, these guys have been pushed around. Things that I've been saying a lack of spring does not translate your overall doesn't negate your physical ability. Big Marv, who did not play, I believe he was sick, but even when you go look at across the board, how is he not making more of an impact when he was All-American? He came back because he wanted to be a first-round pick. You know how to work out. They've all done workouts. We saw the videos on YouTube and on Twitter. They were all doing things. That's either a mental thing or again, I have to go back and ask philosophically, what are they being asked to do? And it looks like they're being asked to do a lot of two-gap, which is not very aggressive. That means you're reading, reacting. And in the day of an RPO, the last thing you want to do is read and react too long. You need to be aggressive and make it dictate what the offense is going to do. And that's the difference between what Coach Fuller's doing and what I would even argue with Harlan Barnett or what Charles Kelly did. Harlan Barnett was put in a bad situation trying to run a defense that he didn't know how to run last season. His first year at Florida State actually wasn't really that bad, statistically speaking. In total defense, but he was more aggressive. They were more aggressive outside of third and long, but for the most part, they were more aggressive. Let these guys play to their strengths. Right now, the defense, they're not playing to their strengths. And I think when they did do that, they played a little bit more man coverage. They blitzed a little bit more aggressive. They were having success against Pitt, but then they just changed it. They changed up, started playing back, and then they got ate apart. The worst thing you want to do is sit back and not know, and let them pick how they're going to kill you. At least run in there willy-nilly, and if you say if you blitz 11 and somebody beats you with a deep ball, at least you can say, well, damn it, we did as much to get pressure as we could. But when you don't blitz and you still get beat deep, now you're just looking competent, and that's what no Power 5 top program should do. And there's enough money in this staff to where you can have expectations. I think people need to cut non-expectation thing out. They're paid very well, very handsomely to produce a result, and the results aren't happening. And it shouldn't happen. Like Pitt was a team that was coming off of 4 losses. That's the other thing that's shocking. It's like, and you came off of a bye week. This is the second time you come off a bye week, and you're getting blown out. That's not supposed to happen.
We talk Florida State football every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock Eastern Time with James, Jason Parker, Logan Robinson. We hope you join us there. We also have a special offer here. We want you guys to latch on to here. So if you want to talk college football, the NFL, whatever you want to throw at James, talk to him directly. We'll bring you on here. You get the choice to whether we broadcast it live or we'll edit and post it later. So if you say anything or want anything, any kind of conversation that you don't necessarily want out there, we can either do it in a private forum, but we're going to do it just like this. So you contact me at MarkRogersTV, MarkRogersTV at Gmail, or if you follow me on Twitter, hit my DM, and I will get you all set up. But we're going to run a raffle, and the winner of the raffle is going to get to talk football with James. So check that out. Again, MarkRogersTV at Gmail, or hit me up on Twitter on my DM. All right, James, hopefully there are better results and better discussions in the future, but it's just not looking that way right now.
Yeah, and, growing pains, and Mike Norvell is our coach and will be our coach for the next few years, and he should be to get this, but just in the present it's just not a really good product. And if you're trying to go out and forecast what it's going to look like, it's not going to look any better, because who would send their kid there? Like, not just to play, but I mean, I joke. One of my idols who made me want to go to Florida State was Marvin Jones, Shade Tree. Shade Tree has really been the banging the drum for the Mike Norvell parade. But I always say his son hasn't committed to Florida State yet, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to put their child in a bad position.
That's straight to it right there. No question. All right, James, we appreciate the breakdown. Right. Thank you so much. We will catch you on Wednesday night.
I appreciate you, Mark. See.
And again, yes, everybody else, Big Game James Coleman will talk college football directly with you, or the NFL, whatever you want to talk. Get a DM to me on Twitter, or contact me at MarkRogersTV at Gmail if you'd like to talk college football or the NFL straight with James. Just hit me up on Twitter or at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. We'll be back after the Clemson-Notre Dame game and all the primetime games here for another call-in show in just a few hours. I've got Clemson and Notre Dame on DVR, so I'm going to catch up to the live action. Then I will see all of you right back here.